Prey was developed by Madison, Wisconsin's Human Head Software, but before they even got a chance to sit back and enjoy the fruits of their labors, just 1 month after its release, 3D Realms and Apogee, the height of gaming excitement's founder, Scott Miller, claimed that a sequel was already being worked on. Even though it wasn't. This is the start of the troubles, and a long list of troubles that would plague Prey 2 for the next 8 years. This 8 years is filled to bursting with false starts, delays, hostile takeovers, shady contracts, and broken promises that wound up denying fans the world over what could have been a truly groundbreaking FPS sci-fi epic. As to why it never found its way onto store shelves, well, somebody please cue that boy. I mean transition. Alright, there you go. Scott Miller, as you would expect, was quick to announce anything approaching success when it came to 3D Realms, considering the fact that the Duke was currently bleeding the company dry. Anyway, Scott was reluctant to publish another product under 3D Realms / 2K, what with that whole mess going on, so a year later, in June of 2007, he decided to open his own agency, Radar Group, which would act as a middleman to pair up promising titles from smaller studios with publishers willing to invest. Scott shopped Prey 2 around, but not a whole lot of progress had been made on the actual game, save for its story and setting, which had begun to take shape. It would pick up immediately after the events of Prey 1. Tommy stands accused of the disappearance of his grandfather and girlfriend, and thus flees the Earth via his spaceship / portal / alien magic. The same gravity and portal-based gameplay loop would have remained, so this would have been a very traditional sequel, but without proper publishing and funding, it remained in a holding pattern, not entering full production quite yet. Then, almost 2 years after that, progress finally started to progress. 3D Realms relinquished all rights to the IP, which were then subsequently transferred to a brand new publisher, one with the funds and clout to hopefully prop up Prey 2 and put it in front of as many eyes as possible. Forgive me if some of you already know where I'm heading with this, but that publisher was Yes, Prey 2 was sold to ZeniMax, parent company of Bethesda, and is who Scott Miller had brokered a deal with. And in all honesty, at the time, this wasn't seen as a bad thing, as Bethesda's reputation in 2009 wasn't quite what it is today. It should be noted, though, that it wasn't the only big money move that the company had made in 2009. In fact, the acquisition of Prey fell right in line with Bethesda buying out id Software and gaining several big IPs and technology in the process. In a 2011 interview, Human Head producer Matt Bissenius confirmed that up until this deal, the game had indeed not entered full development. 3D Realms decided to announce we were working on Prey 2 when we were only bouncing ideas around for it. We didn't start exploring the Prey 2 universe you see here until we were with Bethesda in 2009. He would also go on to say that their approach wasn't simply to make a sequel by fixing issues and adding features, but instead wanting to take some of the first game's core concepts and make a brand new experience out of them. This whole new experience was officially revealed by Bethesda and Human Head at E3 2011, with the story focused around a bounty hunter, a new character separate from Tommy, who would explore an open world that was quite a target-rich environment. The global success of Red Dead Redemption a year prior was what spurred the team to move the game down this path, ditching the gravity and portal elements and focusing the entire game around bounty hunting. The hunter in question was to be Killian Samuels. That's the most American action name I've ever heard of. A U.S. Marshal whose plane crashes into the Sphere, the alien ship from Prey 1, and hilarity ensues. Fast forward several years, and he's now an experienced hunter just trying to make his way in the galaxy. And because he's a mysterious protagonist, he needs fuel. Protag fuel. The fuel in question? Amnesia. Yep, he didn't remember anything about his life before his fateful plane crash. The second it was shown, Prey 2 looked immensely promising and exciting. A sci-fi FPS with cutting-edge graphics and evolved gameplay where you explore an entire alien planet, hunting, trapping, or executing targets, with a dark and twisting storyline that was going to feature Tommy in a supporting but intriguing role, while some fans bemoan the pushing of him into the background and ditching the linear shooter design. The overwhelming majority welcomed just how advanced the game looked, sounded, and felt. Hands-on previews from the media were also glowing, and the famous Blur-produced cinematic trailer also wowed pretty much everyone who saw it. I distinctly remember watching this and getting mad hyped. This was all the more impressive though because Human Head were still working with id Tech 4, the engine that powered the original Prey as well as Doom 3 and the Quake that came out after Quake 3, whose name I always forget. Human Head were wizards with the engine, and even though they could have upgraded to id Tech 5, since Bethesda now 100% wholly own the technology, they just decided to stick to their guns, something Human Head loved to do. Vesenius was quoted as saying, "We put a lot of time and energy in that id Tech 4, and we really love what it's capable of at this point." So everything was going super well, the buzz around the game was palatable, and Human Head was making good progress with an engine they made sing. Then Bethesda'd. Reportedly, behind the scenes, all progress on Prey 2 suddenly halted, and this was because Human Head had their hands busy trying to defend themselves from a hostile takeover. Now, to most, pretty much everyone on the outside, it seemed like Prey 2 just kind of went dark. It was not shown at E3 2012, even though 2012 was its initial release date, and when you're a big AAA shooter published by Bethesda, that sets off your what happened alarm. Hype for the game started to slow down, way down, until eventually the dreaded word cancelled started appearing on websites. This is when Bethesda finally spoke up to dispel those rumors. Development of Prey 2 has not been cancelled, but the game will not be released in 2012 as planned. The delay is due to the fact that the game development has not progressed satisfactorily this past year, and the game does not currently meet our quality standards. Prey 2 has shown great promise, and we regret disappointing our fans. We have made a substantial investment in game development to deliver the experience fans want. We are determined only to release the AAA game that fans rightfully expect, and are unwilling to compromise our quality standards to meet a release schedule. Ah yes, Bethesda. The company refuses to rush games to meet their release schedule. Can we get this quote on poorly aged, please? But it's weird. Back in 2011, the game was reportedly in an advanced alpha state and was looking pretty amazing, and the industry was abuzz about it. So what went so wrong in the course of just a few months that wasn't satisfactory for Bethesda? Well, time just kept ticking into the future, and all relevant lips remained shut, especially Human Head's. Another year went by, and in May of 2013, with E3 fast approaching and Prey 2 again missing the show, cancelled was being bandied about once more. This time though, extra tidbits started circulating. The project had been pulled from Human Head and moved over to Texas-based Arcane Studios, who Bethesda also owned. These reports were categorically denied by the damp waffle that is Bethesda's Pete Hines, who stated no such transfer had taken place. No, all that stuff, I have no idea where it came from. The Human Head Prey 2 thing is the Human Head Prey 2 thing. Arcane is over here, and they're doing their thing, and that's for them to work on. We'll be ready to talk about what they're working on when it gets closer to release. Prey 2 isn't down for the count. It wasn't up to snuff previously, but it will get there in some form or another. That's great, Pete. Thanks for clearing all that up. Hey, Cammy, do you have anything to say about...
Everything is lies! Everything is lies!
One single week after Pete Hines said this, internal emails at Arcane were leaked, which confirmed they had taken over the game and were scrapping everything Human Head had done. The email specifically cited that this rebooted Prey would be more akin to System Shock, which is exactly what it wound up being akin to. Also, one last thing, Pete. I like how you're throwing out quality as if it's some barrier of entry that Bethesda published games just can't pass.
I'm over here, fuckface.
There's gonna be fucking assholes leaking all over the place.
The breakdown between Human Head and Bethesda started to come out as well, but not quite the whole picture, just some pieces. Jason Blair, a narrative designer for Prey 2, said that the reasons leading up to the cancellation of 4 years of work were political and petty, and holy shit were they. IGN spoke to several members of Human Head familiar with the matter, and was able to piece together the behind-the-scenes jigsaw puzzle. Many found it odd that such a polished-looking, technologically impressive media darling missed 2 E3s in a row, and allegedly this dark period had nothing to do with the game at all. While Bethesda were keen to publish it and felt it could be a big hit, they were more interested in buying Human Head outright, but they were just as keen not to sell. The experience they had gained working with id Tech was seen as immensely valuable, which was pretty convenient considering Bethesda owned that technology. So after their E3 2011 debut, and with such a positive buzz around the game, Bethesda and Human Head agreed to give it an extra 6 months to hone and polish, aiming for holiday 2012 rather than its original summer window. Problem was that this new addendum was never added to their written contract. Bethesda wanted to pressure them into accepting a buyout, so they started demanding more frequent and strict milestones and several extra features that would require more time and expertise. But because the extension wasn't official, Bethesda would not be legally required to pay for all this extra work. Thus, Human Head, with mountains of bills and not enough paychecks to go around, would therefore need to take Bethesda's buyout offer in order to keep the lights on. Eventually, by early 2012, Bethesda would slide their offer across the table once again, but Human Head refused and essentially went on strike, suspending all work on Prey 2. Now, rather sneakily, Bethesda did have it in writing that as long as their contract was valid until the end of 2012, that Human Head was legally not allowed to work on any outside projects as the main developer, which basically locked them into a raw deal. So they took on smaller support work for other titles like BioShock Infinite and Defiance. Oh, it's been a while since I heard that name. These jobs, as you can imagine, were barely making ends meet though. The two companies spent the rest of the year trying to negotiate, but nothing really came of it, as that's just how bad the blood had gotten, neither willing to give an inch. Eventually, everyone just said fuck it, and simply let the contract expire, which meant that the IP was now 100% in Bethesda's hands. And since they owned like 8 or 9 studios that can make FPSs, it was decided to simply hand it off to someone else. Now, as for the reason why they ditched Human Head's original design, well, that's a bit murkier. There might have been grounds for possible legal stink lines to start wafting up if someone at Human Head was feeling ballsy, but more likely Arcane felt it either inappropriate or a technical headache to take over existing, heavily customized code and would receive zero support or help with, so the decision was made to start fresh with CryEngine. Of course, Pete Hines scoffed at all of this, and to be fair, when you are the mouthpiece for your company, that's what you kind of need to do. Oh yeah, Human Head. Oh, we fucked him. We fucked him at the drive-thru. No, he claimed that the entire IGN report was nonsense and stated the game didn't turn out like we wanted. It didn't work and it didn't happen. But like stated earlier, it did happen, and those leaked Arcane emails from 2013 were completely legit despite the earlier denials. Kotaku were the ones who originally reported on those emails, as well as providing more details on other Bethesda projects in 2015, and because of that, Bethesda blacklisted the website, making sure they would no longer get any interviews or early copies of Bethesda games for review. Kotaku, I haven't always agreed with you, but you certainly took one for the team here. Good stuff. Fortunately, Prey 2017 wound up being a very solid, underrated gem, albeit quite different. But lots of fans still lament the original version that Human Head had worked so extremely hard on for years. Playing as a bounty hunter skulking through an alien metropolis had a concrete appeal, and was set up for some truly mind-bending story twists, so there's no limit to how much of an impact it could have made if it had been released. There's lots of little details about the game out there, like some audio logs with Tommy and some story breakdowns that I'm sure will melt your mind. So be sure to check them out in the links below. Unfortunately, things didn't really go well for Human Head after this high-profile cancellation, as the projects they did wind up crafting never seemed to hit, especially since all of their id Tech experience was no longer as applicable, since the engines were locked up at Bethesda. There was an Amazon-published touchscreen-only horror game, Lost Within. It's not good, I played it. Something called Dungeon Defenders 2, I don't know. And of course, The Quiet Man, which, god damn it, I can't. I just can't. The last game they released was Rune 2, a return to one of their earliest franchises that they started all the way back in 2000. The game wasn't highly regarded with fans, and despite a lot of post-launch support, failed to keep the company in business. And then, in a very ironic, sobering, depressing, I don't know, twist to the story, the remnants of the company then reorganized and became Roundhouse Productions. Now, why do that exactly if you have no financial backing and your last company went bankrupt? Well, they did have financial backing in the form of Bethesda, who purchased the company in 2019. If you know of any other catastrophic cancellations, let me know in the comments below, over on my Twitter, check out the new merch bar down below, or take a weird alien portal over to the Flophouse VIP Patreon and become a big boss and nominate what you want to see in a future episode. See you next time, and thanks for watching.